Hmm.
Could I just interject with one technical issue? No, it's a technical issue. Somebody just told me that they only have video on YouTube. They don't have audio.
It's getting there. Things are.
All right.
Mercury retrograde is really messing with me tonight. I had to restart the whole video end of this. But
okay. All right. I can't answer these people right now. They have to figure it out on their own right now.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'm sorry because I didn't mean to interrupt.
Use the sign language. Wait.
Wait. Oh, is that what that means? Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay.
Well, I think Jill is definitely correct that there is a very playful side of my personality, and when boys / men play with each other, what ends up happening is for women, and especially like my mother when she was still with us, would be shocked at how I would play with my friends, because men have a tendency to show affection by being brutal and just really teasing each other mercilessly. And she would get on Facebook and say, "What are you doing? That's your friend. Don't talk to him like that." I'm like, guys don't say "I love you." They say, "You idiot."
Yes.
So that's definitely a part of my life where I have a lot of friends that it's a lot of you're busting each other's chops a lot. But when it comes to a professional situation, that's not a part of my professional relationships for the most part. There's some playfulness, but when it comes to partnering with somebody and having shared goals, I have some problems attracting the people that I feel like I need to get things done. And I find that, like I said, it's the most basic perspective issues where they just don't get, they don't understand what you're saying and they don't see it the same way. And it's been a struggle.
Well, one thing I do want to say to you, Paul, is we talked a while ago on the air about doing coaching and/or reading on the air. I want you to schedule coaching with me privately. I mean, somewhere along the way, we'll fit in some fun to have on the air. But I really want to work with you on that because I do think it is something that you are either resisting or not clear on. That
I would love that.
That really needs some work. Jim, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Not yet, no.
Maybe, Jim, you can give me a little remote acupuncture. And
sure, yeah. I have my voodoo doll right here.
I think my chakras are all messed up. I need help with my chakras.
Oh, I do chakra balancing, so I could fix that for you.
Please. I know there's a problem. I got all kinds of problems.
Well, right now it's Mercury retrograde, and for the people who have been texting me, telling me that they lost audio and only have video, Paul, can you explain what you did and how long it's going to be until things maybe look a little bit better?
Yes. Right now, I am working on a program called OBS, and it is streaming out to 5 different social media platforms. And for some reason, the whole thing shut down, and I had to restart. And each one of those social media accounts, I need to sign in again in order to, I have to do the password again on each account in order to start it up again. So I think I have at least 3 or 4 up.
Jim? Oh, all right. Do you want Jim and I to talk for a while and you could do what you need to do?
No, just play some circus music because I'm juggling right now. I feel
Let's see.
I got it. I got it.
Oh, yeah. Play a love song or something. All right, that's good. And just give us a minute. I can't be texting right now.
Okay, I think. I've got 4 out of the 5 accounts running with the video. So
all right.
Let's just move on, and I should be up.
All right.
Should be up and running soon here.
All right. So I would like to open up tonight's show with a short quote, and it's a little bit different than a typical law of attraction quote. And actually, I put this on Facebook not that long ago, and it really resonated with me. But it's really more about trusting the process. And the reason why I felt that was so important right now is if you don't trust the process, you're not going to be able to draw in anything that you really desire. And it's not about consciously thinking about it. It's about just trusting the process. And you'll see as we go through the show really what I mean by that. So I'm actually looking for the quote, and it's short and sweet. Basically what it says is, don't worry about the people God removed from your life. He hears conversations you didn't, saw things you couldn't, and make moves you wouldn't. And what that really means to me is that whatever happens in your life, instead of resisting it and trying to fix it and trying to manipulate it and do what you think is the best thing, trust the process. Go with the flow of things. See where it leads you, because most of the time it's going to lead you somewhere better. And there's actually a story that I did. Well, never mind. We're running behind. If I have time at the end, I'll share the story. But what I always tell my clients, for instance, is that if they're, for instance, in a relationship, or if they have a particular job and they get laid off from the job and they're really frustrated about it and they're cursing the world and they're doubting everything, I basically say, if you're supposed to be together with this person, or if you're supposed to have that job, you would have it. That this particular path is opening up for you for a reason. And what I really would like people to realize is, if we trust the process, let me tell you, it takes you a lot further, a lot quicker, and into a lot better places than resisting. And sometime we'll do a show on resistance, because resistance is one of the biggest hindrances to any success that any of us could ever have or want. The more we resist, the more we fail. Jim, do you have anything that you could add to either trusting the process or resisting?
Well, for starters, sometimes trusting the process leads to something that doesn't feel good. But sometimes that's what you really need at the moment. And it's also the path, the way that it's going to take you to a better place later, or it's going to teach you the lesson that's going to take you to that better place later. So just because you trust the process and it didn't work out the way you wanted it to, means you haven't waited long enough.
I agree with that. And what I always tell people, it's the outcome that matters. Yeah. And actually that isn't true, because I believe it's the journey, not the destination. But when you're trusting the process, along the way, there are going to be hiccups and burps, and there are going to be things that don't go your way, just as Jim said. And I agree with that 100%. Just wait it out and continue to trust the process. Because if you're not doing it, then a lot of the things that we're talking about here aren't really going to manifest for you or make sense. Because it is about, if we go back to Paul's scenario, if I do coaching with you, Paul, and you say, okay, so I need 4 steps that will help me get back on track. And I give you 4 steps, and you do the steps, but you don't trust it. You're going, yeah, right, this is really going to work. Is it going to work? There's a quote I think it's by Henry Ford, and it says, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And that's the answer to everything. It's the answer to everything. It's truly what you believe. And that's where my techniques, Jim, go ahead.
In The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, he has Socrates.
Oh, I remember that book from 30 years ago.
Yeah, he makes that beautiful statement. He says, how many people have accomplished anything by saying I can't?
Right. But it's really, I mean, that's where my techniques for the law of attraction are so different. I deal with the beliefs. I really dig down to, let's assume that, you want to win the lottery, but you never win oh man, I listen to myself. Maybe I'll come up with the answer to win the lottery here.
Hey, all right.
But
I got my pen, hurry up. What are the numbers?
I was once doing a seminar and somebody said to me, how do I win the lottery? I said, by not wanting to win it. Because again, my famous words about wanting, but whatever you want, you're going to keep away, because you look up the word want in any dictionary, it means lack of. But equally as important to that, when you're dealing with having this, like fascination with all this wealth and whatnot that you would have if you won the lottery, what's that voice inside saying? Is it saying, oh, baby, yeah, come get me. I'm getting the Jaguar, the Porsche, the this and the that, and the mansion on top of the hill. No, in reality, it's going to go, holy crap. What happens when it...
That was close.
What happens when I really win? What am I going to do? I mean, I'm scared, I'm this and I'm that. And those are the things that I deal with when I'm working with my clients. And that's what I meant about polarity, that if they want the wealth and they've got that poverty mentality, that's what's holding them back.
Another message they're saying is probably, I don't want this life that I'm living, which is
and what is your subconscious hear when you're saying, I don't want?
Yeah.
It's hearing, I want.
Yeah.
It doesn't know.
Not.
It doesn't, yes. Bingo! Yay! It's
Clarify
true. It doesn't.
That, though. Clarify that.
Your subconscious does not understand the don't.
It's like a 5-year-old. When you tell a 5-year-old not to jump on the bed, what do?
All right.
He's got a 12-year-old. He knows.
Don't jump on the bed. Boing, 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 boing.
Your subconscious
doesn't hear the nut. They hear, what a great idea. Let's do that.
So it does not understand,
How do you feed your subconscious what it needs to...
Positive messages. Go outside and play. Do other things. Have fun.
Oh, okay.
Shoot a gun, put your eye out, stuff like that, but don't jump on the bed.
See, the way I would deal with it is why are you jumping on the bed, or why do you want to jump on the bed? Get down to the nitty-gritty, and then when you understand what the motivation is, you've resolved the issue.
Clearly, you haven't worked with a 5-year-old.
Clearly, I haven't. You're right. And I'm thinking, this is what I do with adults. What do I know about a 5-year-old? So what would you do with a 5-year-old?
Well,
there's not a whole lot of difference. There's not much difference.
You make those positive suggestions about other things. You say, instead of jumping on the bed, you make positive suggestions. Let's have some ice cream. Let's have some lunch. Let's do something outside. Let's go play in the playground. Those kinds of positive things, which move you in the direction you want to, which is why the focus in trying to win the lottery could be, what would I do if I did win the lottery? How can I plan that? And, what kind of money would I give to charity? What kind of things would I sponsor? What kind of people could I help? Messages like that are very, very rich and valuable, that would move you in a positive direction. And that's...
See, now, where I think that would come in really handy is with subliminal messages, because then your conscious mind isn't doubting, because it doesn't even know that it's receiving it, unless you're listening to a subliminal tape or something. But you get subliminal messages, there's no resistance. If we're having a conversation right now and I'm telling Paul that, you're going to start drawing in the most wonderful people, and they're all going to be supporting all your projects, and everything's going to be crystal clear. What are you going to be thinking, Paul? You're nuts.
Well, after this lovely discussion, I would hope that I would be thinking positively, but my knee jerk would be like, yeah, right.
Exactly. So,
I
believe I think the subliminal messages will sort of get past that resistance.
Yeah, you can do that.
My techniques, which I will work with you with, are going to help you realize why you're holding yourself back.
Okay.
Jim, what were you going to say?
Nothing. That's good. Move on.
Okay.
Well, this reminds me here. We definitely we have a few ads running in various places, and we're trying to reach out and offer our services for a discount. So we're looking for a social media manager. So we're going to positively put that out that we're looking for a person who can do regular posts on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter for us, and to be responsible for posting graphics and social media campaigns. During the show would help with screening callers, and sadly there's no pay yet, but you do get access to Lady Fontaine for either psychic advice or life coaching, which I'm going to be taking advantage of. And plus it's great exposure. It looks great on your resume. And it is everything we're doing here is really fun, and there's a lot of different careers out of broadcasting and working with screen calling and video production and all the stuff that we're doing here. They're really good life skills to have. So if you're interested, please email us at radioshow@ladyfontaine.com. with your qualifications and contact info, and Lady Fontaine or her assistant Star will contact you if you are the right fit. So, okay, I'm sorry for the diversion. Getting back to where we were, I think we had a quote here.
Well, I wanted to give you an example of a caller that I had the other day and how it played into that quote, that he really trusted the process. But could I add something that's really, really important to what you just said, that we really are looking for a social media manager, but we need help in screening these calls, and we're also going to be able to offer whoever does the screening on-air time if they want it. So I just wanted to add that in. I think you said it, but I wanted to emphasize. So, all right. The other day I had this gentleman call me, and he was a truly amazing first-time client, first time I ever spoke with him. And he was involved in a same-sex relationship. And I got to tell you, this guy had it all together. Everything I said to him, he said to me, it's exactly what I do. I was ready to hire this guy. But what really resonated with me and drew me in about this guy is that he knew his own worth. When I was saying to him that one of these gentlemen that he was asking me about, I immediately picked up that he was in another relationship. And he said, he's married. And I said, well, he might be married in, the whatever sense of the word, but he's not. I said, he's got more than one foot out the door. And he said, yes, he knew because he's been chasing after him for about a year. But he said he's keeping him at a distance because he wants him at that point when he's free. And that's not what often happens. A lot of people call me and they're in this entanglement, or they're, it's a mess. But this person really had it down pat. I mean, in a nutshell, he really understood what trusting the process was, but what also the law of attraction is. Because when you know your own worth, what are you going to draw in, Paul?
You're going to draw in what you deserve.
Right. You're going to draw in somebody who knows your worth and treats you with respect and appreciation and gratitude, et cetera, et cetera. And this guy had it all together. And it's something that, I work with my clients on a lot. But man, if I could clone this guy and somehow bring that awareness in how you really do your inner work. I mean, I think that he was dealing with struggles like we all do when you want somebody and they're not available, or you want to be in a relationship with somebody and there's obstacles. But he was dealing with it, not losing that perspective of who he was. And that's really what I want you to really, really sort of develop, that person in yourself that you want other people to be for you. It all starts with you. We were talking about it last week about loving yourself. You can't draw in a relationship unless you love yourself. It's the same thing. You can't draw in those people unless you're reflecting that within yourself.
Right.
It's always a reflection. So those are parts of you that we need to work on. But in the meantime, until we do, you could be working on it yourself.
Right.
At least think about it. Like I would say, make a list of what those qualities are that you're wishing that somebody would give to you. It's the same thing in a relationship. It's the same thing. I have people contacting me all the time that say things like, oh, well, he doesn't call, he doesn't text me, he doesn't respect me, he doesn't ask me, how I'm feeling or whatever it is. And that's because they're not treating themselves. They're not putting themselves up in the pedestal. They're not treating themselves with the respect that they're hoping or wishing that somebody would treat them. In order to get that, you have to treat yourself with that same level of respect or value. I think that you've kind of got caught in what you said before about guys, they just goof around and, they say all these things to each other. And that's a validation to you that, they like me and I'm part of everything and I'm important. And that's why you're drawing that in, because that excites you. And that's like a passion in a way, even though you want that other crystal clear piece. And that will come. That will come.
That's the difference between social interactions and, more business-sided things where I hope I'm attracting playful people that can take a joke and they're not so sensitive. Those are my friends that I have that you see those interactions, but you're not seeing the interactions that are driving me crazy on the business side of things where it's a different thing. And I think...
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, and we could talk a little bit about it because it's, I don't want to be specific, and I'm definitely, I don't want to trash talk anybody in my professional circle, so I'll keep it vague. But, I entered into a partnership with a bunch of guys to work on a project together. And when we got to the final steps of the project, some of the members of the group decided that it was their artistic license and it was a creative process to continue changing and altering their parts of the whole. And so for me, I was really shocked because I've done this process several times with other groups of people. And when we got to the final steps, we basically just executed and recorded the parts of our separate parts that made the whole. But there's a certain point where you stop creating and you document. So my shock was like, wait a minute, we've never discussed this or we never went over this. And the members were like, no, this is a creative process, so we're going to continue altering things as we see fit. And I said, well, my part is based on your part. So once you start shifting the foundation, my part doesn't make any sense anymore. It doesn't fit the whole anymore. And their idea was like, no, it's fine. And it's like, my perspective is, you're shifting the foundation, and their perspective was, no, I'm just painting the wall a different color. So for me to treat myself with respect, I very politely and professionally backed out of the situation and said, I no longer want to be a part of the group, but I will finish my part. If you guys feel like continuing to alter and create, I won't fight you, but I don't want to be involved in the discussions. You do what you think you need to do, and let me know when you're done, and I'll come in and put my part in at the end. And they said, no, we don't want to work with you anymore.
So, they said that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, right. I feel like I did, I respected myself to be very clear.
You did.
And very
you
kind.
You defined your boundaries.
I was very kind and professional about it. It's like, I'm sorry, we have different perspectives, and this doesn't work for me because I built my part on yours, and you changed your part at the last minute. Like, that doesn't work for me. So you need to find somebody they're okay with that, because I'm not. So,
all right. So could I tell you what I see in that situation?
Please.
All right. So I see a person who feels like, and the person is you, a person who feels like they're not being heard. And also a person that feels like, bingo, that's what we're working on. That's what we're working on.
Yeah.
And also a person who feels like he's not being respected for what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Those are the pieces that, see, it's, and you just said always, that's always what happens to you, that you don't feel heard or you don't feel, well, is it? I mean, I feel that, bingo, we nailed it.
That is probably one of the, that's one of the core issues I've struggled with in my life from my childhood. My upbringing was very, I'm Italian, so there's a whole, children are to be seen and not heard kind of aspect of growing up Italian. So, with my family, I struggled with being criticized or yelled at, and as soon as I would try to defend myself and explain something, I would just be told to shut up and go to my room. So that's something that has stuck with me my whole life. So I have a tendency to over-explain myself, but I always feel like I'm not being heard or understood. It's just a core problem I have.
Right, it's a core belief and or a core issue, and that's what we'll be working on when I work with you. I mean, I don't want to go into major details here, but I wanted to show you how really simple it is to identify what the issues are that are holding you back from bringing the things into your life that you truly desire. And Jim, when you had asked me earlier today about polarity, that's what I was talking about. And doesn't that resonate with everything that we always talk about on this show?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was screening callers, so I missed that part.
All right. Well, do you want me to repeat it?
No, it's okay. I mean,
okay. All right.
I mean, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Sort of. Yeah.
So in any event, Paul, you and I will work, but that's how I work with the law of attraction, that there are things that hold us back from really drawing in the things that we truly desire in life. And those are the areas that I work on with you and with any of my clients. Because until you get those resolved, it doesn't matter. You can pick up any book on the law of attraction, and there's going to be, you have to believe it, you have to visualize it, you have to think it, you have to this it and that it. But if that little voice in the back of your head is still saying, ain't going to happen, let me tell you, it's not going to happen. And you go into, you don't realize it, but you do, because you said and you recognize that that's a core issue with you, that you're not being heard. So that little voice in spring, they're not going to even care. They're not going to listen. Do you think they even want to hear what you have to say? But that's the inner voice. And that's what we have to work on with you. So, but in the meantime, have fun with all the guys and do that part of it, because you shouldn't lose that kid side of yourself. I think that's really important. We just need to sort of chisel out and fix some of the other parts.
Right.
Some of the hurt parts, the broken parts.
The broken
parts,
yeah.
Yes.
How would you feel about taking a call now? We're definitely warmed up.
We're not following any kind of
program
format here today, so go for it. Who do we have on the phone today?
So we have Lisa. And I'll let her explain for herself. Hold on.
Okay.
Lisa, you there? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
What's your story, Lisa? What do you got to tell us?
Hi, Joe.
I recognize this voice already.
Oh, you know each other.
I know Lisa. Yeah. Oh, my God.
So
are you calling with a question? What?
No, I just wanted to add to my experience with you, Jill. And if that's what you want, or me, I always have a lot of questions.
Well, you could ask questions. You could do whatever you want. This is your moment. This is your 5 or 10 minutes on the air. So go for it.
Okay. So I've been listening to the show and the caller you had previous. so I was relating a lot to that because, I've done a lot of psychic work with you and then moved into the coaching. And I couldn't agree more with what he was saying as far as I was kind of relating a little bit because of the always feeling like you're never heard. Mine were for different reasons, but I can't emphasize enough how much the coaching has helped me and how resistant I was to it. Everything you guys were saying, I'm going to use one of your words, Jill, resonating with me. So anyway, I agree with everything, all of that, and just wanted to say that if anybody's thinking about doing the coaching, it's a great thing, and it has helped me tremendously.
I've known Lisa for, 15 years.
14 years ago, 14, I found you as a psychic.
Right.
When I was going through a really bad divorce. And you helped me with that. And you already know this about me, but the times that I was thinking, oh yeah, she's, this is not going to happen. And every single time it did. And I know I'm not the easiest student, Jill, because I know there's times you really wanted to give up on me, and then 3 years ago, I moved into the coaching with you, which has helped unbelievable. And, just trusting the process. Like I tell you all the time, I hear you in my head all the time, trust the process. And anyway.
You do. At this point, you do.
Yeah.
But could I share on a very high level? I'm not going to get into any detail, but could I share that at the beginning of the year?
Happened?
Well, yeah. Or do you want to share it?
Well, I didn't know if you wanted me to share an example, but I definitely think what has transpired the last 4 weeks or so in my life is just unbelievable.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I continue to pinch
but at the
myself
beginning
every
of
day.
the year, right? But at the beginning of the year, Lisa had, or actually in December, she wrote down 3 wishes, and one of them was so unbelievably, that's like wishing that we're going to win $500 million in the lottery.
Yes.
What are the chances it's going to happen? Everything lined up against it for the past, how long, 2 or 3 years, or however long it was lining up against it. And
about
I
2
said,
or 3 yeyears. Yeah. Exactly.
And I said to Lisa, it was going to happen, and it did. It happened better than I even anticipated. Oh my God!
And let me just throw this in again. I didn't believe it, but
right. Of course, you wouldn't believe it.
No, I do. I wouldn't keep talking to you if I didn't. But I can share even the details about it if you want to kind of.
I think it would be great if you don't mind doing it. That would be great because it's a phenomenal story.
Well, okay, just to take a step back, it was a couple years that we were dealing with, kind of a volatile relationship with my son and his wife. Things moved very rapidly, and a child, and then a second child, and then a falling out where I literally had not seen my son or my 2 grandbabies for over a year and a half. And Jill did a ritual for me. December, Jill, or January?
December 21st.
Yeah, and like you said,
the winter
this was
solstice.
The one that we're thinking. I had been working at my job for 13 years. That something happened there where I don't want to say I lost my job, but I was kind of forced out. And so everything was just looking really bad. And she did this ritual, and I kid you not, my one son was supposed to get married. Some things came out about that where he didn't. It brought healing with the other son.
And I told her it would. The second she was hysterical about what was going on. Literally 1 week before the wedding, they called it off.
Yeah.
and she was she was freaking out. And I said, this is it. This is the moment that's going to change everything. And I told her to text her son and just say, the wedding is off and blah, 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 blah. And I remember he wrote back and he said, okay. And I said, God, he could have said, like, thank you for letting me know or something. But that changed everything.
2 days later, he sent me a text, reach out to me. We want this to stop, reached out to his brother. And then I hopped on a plane, went and got reacquainted with my grandbabies, 1 and 2 years old, and had the best time. And while I was there, I got a call for my dream job. And I'm like, I can't even believe all this is happening.
Bingo.
It was unbelievable. Like I said, I still pinch myself every day. And then the coaching has helped tremendously, because it is really true. If you work through some of the stuff from your past and all of that how much that helps.
So Lisa, if I can interject here and ask, what changed with you internally, and
everything?
Where did your perspective? What changed there that helped make this manifest outside?
Yeah, just ask Jill. Everything, because
how did you make that change on the inside,
and I stopped resisting, and I just started believing and trusting, and
we work through a lot of issues. There's psychology. There's psychological techniques that I use. I mean, my background is in psychology, and I use a lot of inner child work and other things. And Lisa's tough. Let me tell you, she's
I'm a tough one. I am. Yeah, I'll be the first to say it. But I remember a year ago, like around Mother's Day, like I said, I was estranged from this one son who Jill knows how close I was prior to that. And it was devastating. And I would just, like, Mother's Day would be approaching. My 60th birthday was approaching. And I just like, maybe tomorrow's the day I'll get a call. Maybe tomorrow's the day I'll get this. I'm like just wanting and just like, practically like just nothing. And then when all this went down, it was just like, even when I'd text him and said, the wedding's off, I didn't expect what I got. I mean, I still am just.
I did.
It's just, I don't even know how to explain it. But I have done a lot of work with her. She's done a lot of work for me. And I just, she's taught me so much on how to just let it go and just let it fall into place. And I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. I could not have asked for a better outcome.
But we had to work through a lot of
like
issues.
10 years ago, things she would tell me, and I'd say after it all kind of panned out and happened, I would say, I didn't believe you, Jill. That was going to happen, and it always did. But now I can't even, like I said, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just it's a great feeling when you can get to that level of just like trusting and believing and knowing. And
but Lisa made it a lifestyle change. I taught her a technique that I'm going to teach you, Paul.
Okay.
And I'm not going to teach you here because it takes time. I mean, when I do coaching, like Lisa and I have done 3 and 4 hour sessions, but typically I say it's 90 minutes, but it rarely is 90 minutes. But she made it a lifestyle change. And one thing I'm going to share with you, and I might have mentioned it somewhere along the way on the show before, is that a big part of the technique that I teach, and it really changes you tremendously from getting into the victim mode to really being in an empowered mode, is anytime you experience an emotion other than love, blissfulness, joy, happiness, it's a clue, and it's a clue to help you look inward and fix yourself. And then I have steps involved and a technique to help you do that. And that's what I'll teach you, and that's what I taught Lisa. But what Lisa got very good at doing is everything. She'd be at work and something would annoy her, and she would right away start doing her work. All right, so what's the emotion that I'm feeling? What is this trace back to? Oh, it's, my mother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, my brother, whatever it did. And she immediately worked on those things. And then you get like this aha moment and it's crystal clear. And then that resolves and you shift, your energy shifts. We were talking about, I think this last week, about energy frequency, but your energy frequency shifts. So you no longer need those experiences. And that's the true law of attraction, because when you shift, everything around you shifts.
110%. I would tell Jill that I worked through something. I'd be in the market. I'm like, I don't know why everybody is saying hi to me and looking at me.
And waiting,
and I'm like,
all this other
it's
stuff.
freaking me out. And I said, I'm kind of like a hermit, I don't really like all this. And then I'd be all of a sudden drawing in all this, it's amazing. But honestly, you do have to kind of keep on top of it, but it's not hard. You can just, it's pretty easy once you learn how to do it. It's like, I don't even, like I said, I can't say enough good things about it. She asked me for a long time to do coaching with her. And the biggest regret I have is that I didn't start sooner than what I did. I just would, to call her and talk to her psychically. But I started the coaching about 3 years ago, and it's great. I love it.
And that doesn't mean that things don't go wrong. Crap happens.
Exactly.
But there's a way to work through it. And
exactly.
Lisa did. And she did a really great job. I mean, I'm really very proud of you, and I'm very happy for the way things have played out in the past.
Yeah.
Few weeks.
It was painful.
Amazing.
There was times I'd say to her, I'm calling my son. I'm just going to give in. I'm going to go beg, plead, cry, whatever. No, don't do it. Don't do it. See my grandbabies, this and that. It could not have played out more perfectly.
So I guess, can we benefit from the law of attraction without doing the deeper work of breaking out of some of these cycles? Because, your life presents you with the same situation over and over until you do the work to...
We're doing it all the time.
Right? But
yeah.
Can you
still... But we're just attracting stuff we don't want.
Yeah, I'm an idiot magnet. That's
right.
What I said. But
exactly.
Is there a way to use the law of attraction to at least get some of the things that you're trying to attract, or do you have to do all the hard work first? I mean,
I believe you have to do the hard work. I think what Jim was resisting today when we were talking about the law of attraction, I think was what you just said, because if you don't do the work, you're just perpetuating the same cycles. Jim, was that what your concerns were, or was it something else?
It's kind of on a bigger scale that people who are like spiritually evolved that I've run across, they don't like to use any kind of magical type of approach to anything. They don't like the idea of attracting or, and a lot of what magic, that we can really practice is really wrapped up in the law of attraction. And they don't like to do that because there's a balance in the universe. And so when you move something with your mind from one place to another place, what you're really doing is you're making a vacuum there that the universe has to fill with something else. And that's true in your life as well. So it's a little bit, if you do the work first, then it makes all the sense in the world, because you've already gotten rid of stuff that you don't need, and therefore you've made room for things. But if you're doing magical work, if you're like trying to attract your Lamborghini, it might be a different story, because if you succeed in doing that, and you haven't really done the spiritual work behind it, it can be very dangerous. You may be actually making a debit from your karma account.
Well, how come there's so many douchebags that are driving Lamborghinis then? I can't believe they can't all be spiritually evolved. I mean, most of them aren't, as far as I can tell.
You're right.
Past life work. Past life. It's all in the past.
Yeah.
But you're
their
right.
day will come. I think their day will come, though.
And I always feel that. If it's not in this lifetime, it'll be in another lifetime.
It's the scripture. How are the mighty fallen? Yes.
There was one thing that one of you guys said. I don't mean to take up all your time, but I just want to say one more thing. It's like, I think it was you, Jim, who said that sometimes it's not real pretty what you have to go through to get where you want to go.
Right.
And like when Jill tells you it's a gift, I want to say, really? You think this is a gift? Like something like that happens.
It is, though.
And I'm thinking, it is, because now I look at, I mean, after going through it and experiencing it, and I said, and this isn't the only situation, the one I just told you guys about, but because there's other things that have happened for me also. But you do have to kind of go through some of that to get to be whatever, if you want to say the other side of it or whatever. But yeah. It's a little,
Lisa,
you gotta work at it.
Lisa, when I was a young man just out of college, I used to pray for strength and wisdom, and that was the stupidest thing I've ever done, because strength and wisdom aren't granted. You're given the experiences that you earn your strength and wisdom, and those things come with a price.
Yeah.
Those things come through very difficult times, but I now have strength and wisdom, but it wasn't like I opened up a present and Christmas morning and there they were. Man, do I go through some hard times to acquire those things. But
you think that try wishing for patience. It's even worse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything that tries your patience is going to come your way till you develop it.
Yeah, they say never pray for patience, because you'll trust me, you're going to have to work at getting it.
Yeah.
But my feeling is that our soul, for those of us who believe in reincarnation, we come back here to experience the exquisite emotions. And that part of our soul doesn't differentiate between the good emotions, the bad emotions. I mean, when I have clients that are like the most stressed out, a part of me is going, yay! I mean, you're here and you're doing what you promised yourself you were going to do. I mean, this is exactly what the soul wants. In spirit, it's like when you're in a dream and you're going from one thing to another, to another, to another. You're not experiencing that intensity that you experience if it's good, bad, or indifferent. What I work with clients is I would like them to have those exquisite good moments, but in spirit, I mean, there's no judgment. So who's judging if it's good or bad? Really, we are. And that's from our perception of things. I mean, how many times?
You said bad emotions, and I was about to say, I don't think there are any bad emotions.
You're right. There aren't. I mean, in reality, I mean, there are. Think of even the Bible, and Lisa's funny because she always says to me, whatever you say, Jill, there's a quote in the Bible that says basically the same thing.
Because I was raised Catholic, like strict Catholic, and then they don't really study the Bible a lot, but I studied it a lot after, my last few years. I've delved into the Bible a little bit. But I told Jill everything that she talks about and she teaches, there's such a parallel with all of that. Like biblically speaking, there really is. And I've sent her stuff about it before where it's like, this is exactly what you were saying, and there's a lot of no accidents. I used to tell my kids there are no accidents.
And there aren't. There's no, I don't believe in coincidence at all, and I don't believe in accidents. Do you guys?
Yeah.
Jim, you don't, Jim,
not.
do you?
Of course
right.
Not.
Paul, do you?
An accident?
Or coincidence?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I believe in it. I'm on the fence. I think that sometimes, things happen for a reason sometimes, and sometimes it's just like, well, why did that?
How can that be?
It's okay.
How can
we'll
that
change
be
you.
that
Don't
it's
worry.
right? How can that be though? That sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I think there's been some experience, when I was a kid, I was reading a book on my front doorstep, and some crow took a crap on my head, and I just, there's no reason for that.
I want to know what the book it was. What was the book?
I don't remember.
Yeah, right.
maybe it was a book I shouldn't have been reading, right?
See, Karma.
Or a magazine even, yeah.
You're the Karma Chameleon. This is Karma Crow.
He laughed at me too.
Yeah,
I yelled at that bird. I was like, "You run!" And he was like, I was like, "Oh, my head on BB gun."
But anyhow, Lisa, I do want to thank you for calling in. I really appreciate it, and for sharing your stories with us. I really appreciate it.
I know. You know me, Jill. I could go on and tell a million more, but I think hopefully people got the idea. It's a good thing.
No, I appreciate you calling. Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
I want to add one more thing about Jill. If anybody is thinking about doing any coaching with her or anything, she is the kindest, nicest, most generous person, and she loves her clients and will treat you very well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
This is all great information, and this is definitely the topic of the show: law of attraction and how to get there. It's not a simple path. So, Jill, what should our listeners be aware of here that we haven't touched on yet? You said maybe they're holding on to something that maybe gets removed from their life, or...
Right. Well, first of all, awareness. And I don't know I'm going to ask Jim to explain awareness. He could probably do it better than me. But that's the most important thing. You have to be aware, self-aware.
Okay. Those are two different things.
Oh, well, could you hit on both?
Yeah. Well, there was a nice story about a Zen master who was visited by one of his students, and the student came in. It was a rainy day. He came in and he takes off his shoes and puts his cane against the wall, and he walks in to see the master, and the master says, "Which side of your shoes did you put your cane on?" And the student said, "I don't remember." And the master said, "You're not aware yet. Go back." So that's awareness. It's like just being in touch with what's going on around you all the time. And self-aware is, of course, to observe yourself as you operate within your environment. It's not just being like in the moment with yourself. It's actually watching yourself as you're going through whatever you're doing, as you're responding to things and reacting to things.
So what I often mention to clients, and Jim basically said that, is have that awareness of yourself. So let me give you an example, because I get this a lot from a lot of clients, because I get a lot of relationship issues. So let's assume that you're involved with someone and either they stop calling or stop texting, or they are inconsistent in not reaching out to you, or they're downright treating you unkindly, and you tolerate it. I have many, many women that come to me, and men as well, that it's like a revolving door, and it's with the same person. That person does something, goes out and dates someone else, marries someone else, and then comes back to them, and they leave that door wide open. So what is that message, Paul? What is that message that we're sending out? First of all, how do we feel about ourselves if we're allowing it? And what's the message that we're sending out to the universe by doing that?
Yeah, I think if you're going through those cycles and it's repeating over and over again, there's something that needs to be addressed. There's something that you need to really do some detective work on, because the older you get, the easier it is to see the cycles where you're like, I don't understand. Why does this keep happening to me? It's like, because you didn't learn your lesson the first time.
Well, that's true. That is true, that it will keep happening until you figure it out. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I have clients that say, "Oh, I don't want to deal with my past." And I'll say, well, your past is going to keep haunting you until you decide to deal with it.
Yep.
And it will, unfortunately, because we've talked about this on other shows, where a lot of our problems develop in our childhood because parents, and they're not being mean, but they're trying to raise kids. They want us to be good, responsible children and behave and everything. And let's assume that, you're watching a scary movie and you're terrified and you're screaming or crying and the parent's just walking by. Oh, stop it. Stop crying already. Stop yelling. There's nothing to be afraid of. But in the meantime, you're terrified. Immediately, that internal process starts going on and is saying, who do I trust? Like, I'm scared, but mommy's telling me not to be scared. And that not trusting yourself begins in your childhood. Why are you laughing, Paul? Does that sound familiar?
You're touching on one of my biggest core issues I had as a child, and I didn't want to turn this show into all about me.
Well, I promised you one time we would do that, so today's the night.
Next week, continued. Paul goes through therapy.
When I was a young child, I had some friends across the street that were a little older than me, older boys, so I wanted to be cool like them. And we were watching a movie called The Blob, and my mother was in the kitchen.
I remember that movie.
Great movie.
Well, my mother was in the kitchen with the other kid's mother, and she's like, "What are you watching?" And we're like, "It's a monster movie. It's The Blob." And she said, and my mother was a very insistent, nagging kind of person, and throughout the whole movie she kept on saying, of course she's yelling because she's in the other room, "I don't know why you're watching that. You're going to have nightmares. You shouldn't be watching that. You're going to have nightmares. You're going to have night." And sure enough, that night I couldn't sleep. I was so terrified. And the movie,
right.
It's one of the most low budget, stupid things in the world.
It's really
a
terrible movie.
A chewing gum. There's nothing to be afraid of. But because my mother, the person that I trusted more than anybody in the whole world, insisted that I was going to have nightmares.
She hypnotized you into it, man. It's all
yeah,
repetition.
and like I've never been more afraid of anything in my life. I couldn't sleep. I and then my parents were mad at me because I told you so. And if you don't get back to bed, you're going to get a spanking. So.
Oh, my gosh.
But those are all the cycles. That's why we're all so screwed up.
Right?
Because we've all had experiences like that where we're not honored and we're not validated.
Right.
And you said, what could we be aware of? And those are the things that we could be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Even the awareness. What do they always say? That's, the biggest chunk of any sort of therapy or any sort of healing is to be aware. And it is the beginning. I mean, unfortunately, I shouldn't say that because most of my clients that come to me for coaching are ready. But I've had a few people that are very resistant and very much in denial. And it's not an easy, like if you're in denial, it's not an easy road because no matter what I say, no matter what I bring up, no matter what I psychically pick up, you're going to resist and say, no, that didn't happen. I had a friend once who told me her life was like the Donna Reed show. Well, let me tell you, she wouldn't have had so many problems if her life was like the Donna Reed show. I mean,
How many people know what the Donna Reed show is?
Oh, well, look it up. I'm sure there's some YouTube
somewhere.
video.
A 1950s beautiful, easy life.
Yeah.
Right. Of a wonderful family that's supportive and loving and
perfect. Yeah.
right. And,
watch Pleasantville, you'll get the idea. The movie.
Yeah. That's right. And obviously none of our lives are like that. I mean, 97 or 98% of society deals with codependency. I mean, we're all messed up. And, and the only way.
Isn't dysfunction a complete misnomer? Because that's the norm. Like who has a functional family? Who goes home for Christmas or Easter or whatever and doesn't have tension and emotional problems? That's
you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful when people are saying normal versus healthy, or
right.
Because normal doesn't mean a good thing. It means just the average.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, most family dynamics are dysfunctional. I mean, and Jim brought up a good point. I like that term, healthy, instead of normal, because there are no normal family environment. The normal is dysfunctional.
Exactly.
Right. And it's true.
I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that was like, I don't have any issues with my family. I don't have any issues with my former relationship. It is normal, but like Jim said, not healthy. But that's how we grow, right? We wouldn't grow and evolve unless we had those challenges to overcome.
But not everybody does. That's the thing. Not everybody does grow and learn from the experiences. That's why they have repeating patterns in their lives. It's like, knock, knock. Is anybody home?
Right.
You know, I mean, until you get it, it's going to keep hitting you. And that's truly, for the work that I do with clients, it's the easiest thing when they're in the middle of having repeating patterns, because I could, you know, zoom right in. And that's why I do it the way I do it and not in traditional therapy anymore. Because, you know, like as a therapist or psychologist, you have this little box and, you know, you can't tell people anything. I'm a psychic. This way I guide them right to the issues, and in 5 minutes, just like I said to you, I heard your story and I knew right where we need to work.
Right.
And I would rather do it that way than spend 4 years in you talking about things in order for you to get that awareness that, oh, gee, nobody ever hears me. So I brought it to your awareness, and now I will teach you a technique that you're going to help heal those experiences from your past where nobody heard you. And then that you have this internal shift that happens. And then suddenly in today's world, you're going to start being heard and you're going to start being valued.
Right.
And you don't have to do anything else. You just need to do that inner work. And that, to me, is truly the key. Because, look, if you look in any book about the law of attraction, like I said, you got to believe it. You got to visualize it. You've got to all these stuff. If you feel like nobody hears you, I don't care how much you visualize, how much you believe, how much you anything else. What's the likelihood you're going to bring it into your life? What you said you wanted, which is these crystal clear, wonderful business relationships that support you and work. But I have to bring up one thing. What did you say last week about this show and working with Jim and I?
You know how much I enjoy it? And...
Yes. And you drew this in. So there's got to be some like positive thing in there somewhere.
Right.
And you're very valued on this show. And you're very appreciated on this show. Yeah. And your creativity and your knowledge and your everything is like, you know, we're sponges. Like, you know, we're just eating it all up.
Yeah, it's mutual. I feel the same way about you too, where I gain so much from doing it.
But so there is a part of you clearly that has the ability to draw in something positive.
Oh yeah, I do have lots of good things too, you know.
Well, I'd be worried about you if you didn't. So
yeah, I'm an idiot magnet for some things, but you know, I have a really good relationship. I have a great child. You know, it's I don't have much to complain about.
Right. No, and you do have a very sweet child. You do. I love the way when we do rehearsals, he always has to come in and say hello. Oh, I think that's so cute. But it really is, and that you let him do that too. And I could see the love between the two of you.
Yeah.
And I could see that even on your posts on Facebook. So obviously there's a lot of good stuff going on there. It's just a matter of, you know, a few tweaks here and there that we'll work on.
Yep.
So do we have any callers since we're not really following this law today?
we do. Here's Lisa. Lisa's called in before, so we'll be having a returner.
Oh, hi.
Lisa.
Hello.
Welcome back. How are you?
Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
So you got to get closer to your microphone or something.
Yeah,
it's
we
really
can't hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to get my earbuds, and it's not going to work because I just put some eardrops in.
Okay.
But anyway, how's this? Is this better? I have the phone way up to my mouth. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you. I'll go ahead.
So tell us your story.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I am listening to the discussion, and I am thinking of my question. My story is my son who's in heaven. He's an adult son. He's been in heaven now for, I know, 5 years.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's
I am too. Thank you. So he gave birth. His person that he chose to have his baby, gave birth, and now my grandson is 6 years old. And my grandson lives on the opposite end of the state from me. And I do not like his mother. I hate how she raises the kids. She has a ton of kids by other men, some of them in prison. She did become a nurse. She's very smart. But she treats my grandson as like a minority. It's just horrible the way she treats him. And she's, you know, I mean, she has shut me out of his life at times. And I've called her and said, look, you know, I'll pay for counseling. Let's go to counseling to try and iron this out. I don't want to win. My big concern is his safety. You know, she neglects him. She puts him in unsafe situations, la, 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 la. So we've had those kinds of dramas. I can live wherever I want now. I work at home. I work remote. And I'm doing okay where I can afford to move. And I know my little grandson, since the pandemic, I haven't seen him. I'm planning to go pick him up and spend some time with him, with his mother's blessing, take him camping or whatever. And I can live there. You know, I can relocate and move there. I asked her where I should move within their vicinity. And she told me 50 miles away. She named a city. And I said, that's very expensive there. She said, yep. She's very smugly. She said, yep, it's more expensive than Phoenix. So, I mean, I don't know. I know I can move right there. I'm just torn. You know, I'm torn. I mean, if it doesn't work out, I can always relocate. But I want to be there for my grandson, but I don't want to have a bone of contention between she and I. We rarely, you know, see each other. And I sent her happy tidings for Mother's Day, but it's difficult.
So what is your question? Do you want to know how things are going to work out? Do you want to know if and where you should move?
Yes.
All right. Yes. Could you give me, are you comfortable giving me the first name of your son and the woman and the grandchild, or any of the above, just so I have something to really zoom in on?
Well, my son in heaven is Michael, and my grandson is Alexander, and the mother's name is Bridget.
All right. It's interesting because Michael is actually telling me, and let me tell you that when I understood what my psychic abilities were, I was a medium. And that's something that I did for a long, long time before I did this work. And he's nudging you along. He's pushing you. And I don't know if you feel that, if you feel his presence really pushing you along and encouraging you to either go there or build that relationship, but he's definitely on board with that. And he's actually even telling me that, you know, spiritually he's supporting that in a real grandiose way. So I encourage you, and this is what I feel you're not doing, is you're trying to please everybody, but you're not being true to yourself. And it shouldn't really matter what anybody else wants here. First and foremost, you have to figure out what you want. And when I look at your energy, I do feel, I would say, almost like an emotional tug of war going on inside of you, that a part of you clearly does want to go there. But there's almost like, it almost comes through like a fear or something that you have. And I think the fear actually is of pushing her away rather than the fear of her herself. But it sounds like, how much further could she push you away? I mean, she's really already doing a great job at doing that. So I would say, you know, start following your own path here And you do have a right to your grandchild, to be building a relationship with your grandchild. And I actually do feel if you chose to relocate anywhere, and you don't have to go 50 miles away, and you don't have to go and move next door to them. You could be 5 or 10 minutes away or whatever really works for you. But see, I'm hesitant on this right now because I'm thinking that, what we were talking about before about manipulating the outer world. And I really feel everything I'm saying to you. And that's like, I have clients that start out as psychic clients and then move to coaching. And I don't like to do psychic readings with them because in a psychic reading, it's the way it is. In coaching, we can change anything and we can cause things to shift and change. And I really feel right now you're going to end up creating almost more of that tug of war going on in your life because she's resistant. She's very, very resistant. She feels very independent and she feels in a way very entitled, but also very afraid. And I don't know if you picked that up on her at all, on Bridget, but there's a lot of fear in her. Now, what was the actual relationship that your son had with her? Because it doesn't feel all that tight, even when they were together. I mean, was that a casual relationship or were they really committed? Because it doesn't feel to me like they were committed. It doesn't.
Well, I think, I don't know. I live, a whole state away from them. And so I think she was an important person in his life. I know he wasn't having relations with anyone else. And, I think they fought a lot and had breakups, but I would only hear this from my other son occasionally. And so they lived together. I don't know. I don't think it was an easy relationship between the two of them.
I would agree. I would agree. And I
think
in that way
live? Sorry, where does your other son live?
Go ahead.
My son. I think my second-born was 3 hours away. My other son.
From Alexander.
Sorry.
From Alexander.
Or from you?
Yeah, from me. He has too much on his plate to be able to be involved in Alexander's life.
I understand, but I was suggesting that perhaps you could go and be near him as an excuse to be near Alexander.
If they were anywhere close, but they're not.
Yeah, I don't know that. That's why I was asking.
Right.
Actually, where they live is more affordable for me than where my son lives. My second-born son lives in he married a nurse. I mean, they're go-getters. She's a wonderful mom. She's popping kids out, which I love. And she's the champion. She's the queen of the hill, I don't have to worry about any of their household, but they live in a very expensive city. And I've thought about that. I have thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just have to keep thinking and keep doing, and I'm sure it'll. No, you're picking
what I really want to suggest to you is, I think have you been out there to visit them?
Oh, tons. Not since the pandemic, though.
Mm.
Oh, so that's the space. Okay. And I think I remember you saying that.
My little grandson used to come here every 2 weeks with me, stay for 2 weeks, because I was like a babysitter. She would look, and that was great. I didn't care. I had him in a little preschool here part-time. I had him in a wonderful daycare situation. So when I had to work, he had friends. He had, best friends. It was like his home away from home. He hated to go home. And so I had everything set up for him here. He has his own room. He would decorate it. That was his space. This was his home. And we would call it our house. And we still do. I talked to him about it. And I said, when Nana moves, you decorate your house, or your room the way you want it. And so anyway.
So what's holding you back from doing it, from moving?
Oh, it's like you saw, and I know the battles that I see coming up, because she really, I see bruises on him. He's got other kids that are older in that house, and there's questionable stuff going on. I've called therapists. My therapist that I've talked to has threatened to call CPS. But now he's very verbal. He's very verbal. She has.
And what is he telling you?
He's not telling me that kind of stuff. She has him on drugs. She takes him to a psychologist. I just hate what she's doing to him. I just hate it. And I don't have.
I think you're kind of powerless unless one of these therapists or whatever did contact, child protection services. I mean, I think you really are powerless to really get involved unless you could prove her. It does not feel like the greatest situation. It doesn't. And remember, I said earlier on that I feel a lot of fear in her energy, and I feel that's what she's afraid of. She's afraid that if you came out there, that you would really see what's going on and step in some way, and that's ultimately what I believe she's afraid of. But I think you should follow your heart. I really do. I really, and Michael keeps on pushing me in that direction where he wants you to get involved. He wants you to do the right thing.
I think what happens too is she punishes him when he comes after he spent time with me for telling me whatever. Because I always bring it up to her. I always tell her I'm in parenting classes, which is not true. I see counselors actually about this and consult with them and show them pictures. I take pictures of them, and huge black eyes, body bruises.
I was going to ask you about that, the bruises. I mean, that's not something you should ignore. Do you think it's her, or do you think it's the other kids in the house?
I have no idea what's going on. And when I ask him, when he comes, and I'll ask him, and it's been since the pandemic, he hasn't been here, he'll laugh it off and change the subject. And anyway, as I'm talking about it, it's just my stomach is, oh man, I know I can't abandon him. I know I have to be there. I'm prepared. I'm prepared to do battle in the way of working with the system, trying to get, but he gets the brunt end of it. I think she punishes him for telling me stuff.
That's why I really do feel, in the big picture of things, what matters, it's the child. It doesn't really matter if she likes you, if she's happy that you're there or involved, if it's going to cause you aggravation. How are you going to live with yourself if, God forbid, something happened to him? And it's already happening to him. It certainly isn't a healthy scenario for him.
Have you checked with legal services and see if there's any custody where you can gain custody?
Over and over again.
Yeah,
good. Private detectives.
Good.
I've called the police. I've talked to the police there. Oh man, you would not believe what I do. I have therapists I talk to about. I've taken her to therapy so we can try to work these things out. She lies in
and
therapy.
What happens? Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, that's the problem. You're not working with a stable person, but that influence on your grandson is tough. But she is the legal guardian, and she is the legal parent, and she is the biological parent. So all that, I guess matters unless you could really prove the abuse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm tempted to check your rates, and see about. I've listened to the other woman's story, and maybe if I can afford you, maybe talking to you, and maybe I can get, I believe in manifestation. I've had some tremendous things take place and materialize in my life. Maybe this is what I need to do, and have it work out for him.
Obviously, if we look at all the things that we talked about today, and even the things that I talked to Paul about today, as you work, I believe, and there was a article that I wrote probably 10 or 15 years ago. It's out there on the internet. And it's called "You Only Need One Person to Fix a Relationship," and that one person is you. And that goes for any relationship. Lisa talked about a very dysfunctional relationship with her son, and it wasn't her son that we worked on, it was her. So it's always you. As you shift and change, everything around you changes.
Well, maybe, okay, bottom line, maybe working to become her friend, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. I can't even look at her when I get near her because she's hurting my flesh and blood.
Jim, you gave a positive response. Jim, what were you thinking when she said that about being a friend? I don't get a good feeling about it, but I'm curious what you were thinking.
Well, I was thinking that one way to try to get access and maybe to help heal Alexander would be to get Bridget to trust you. Because
exactly.
If Bridget starts to trust you, she might trust you more with Alexander, and that would give you a chance to be able to remove him from the context and give him a picture of a world where it isn't this way. And if he just hangs on through whatever you can do, you'll be able to reinforce that for him. Maybe when he gets in high school and has some level of emancipation, you could take custody.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the change for me, is because I have been told to be her friend, mm-hmm. and I vomit at the idea, and when I'm around her, I just can't look at her. Mm-hmm. I'm so furious with her, and I'm handing him over, and he doesn't want to go. And I know it's normal sometimes for kids to say, "I don't want to go." I know it's normal sometimes.
Yeah.
But you brought up the question, what are you going to do if you haven't helped? What if something happens? I wrestle with that all the time.
Of course you do.
That's why I really feel that for your own sanity, you have to follow what feels right for you. I could tell you one thing, because you mentioned doing coaching with me. My rates are pretty high. I mean, you can call in every week if you want, and we'll try to get you on the air, if you can't afford a session with me. But, to really do the work and really see, there's a lot of things that I feel that we could change in you. Because, again, remember what I said, the outer world is always a reflection of what's going on inside of you. And this chaos is reflecting something in you. And if we could resolve that something in you, all this chaos goes away. And you heard an unsolicited client of mine call in and give her story. And she was in as not the same kind of situation, but a very tormenting situation to her with the relationship with her son. And her grandchildren, and everything turned around. I mean, I see the pictures of a happy family now, and it's an amazing thing, but it was all working on her. So, check out my website. I mean, maybe you could do a session or two and we could figure it out, but I'm a firm believer, and she is reflecting something in you. And if you could resolve what that is, if it's anger, if it's guilt, if it's hurt, and I think it's all of that plus some. But do you have guilt regarding your son?
Hell yes. Mm. Who doesn't when they lose a child? I don't care how old they are.
Yeah, but you're really carrying that a lot. I feel that pretty strongly in your energy. So what I feel you're doing is you're punishing yourself, and a lot of this has to do with that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you're not going to always feel terrible about the loss of your son, but there are ways to deal with that guilt.
Yeah.
Jill, can I break in for a second? I mean to interrupt, but I don't have the same abilities that you have or the schooling, so I'm coming from a completely different perspective. But the way I would see it is there, in these type of situations, you don't have a lot of control. And the thing that I could see you maybe doing is not necessarily being her friend, but be a resource to her and take some of the pressure off of her. If there's abuse in the home and she's got more children than she can handle and she's got a difficult job and she's got multiple men that have fathered her children, maybe if you're closer and you're someone that she can count on without judgment and without you going to her and saying, my grandson said you did X, Y, and kind of call her on her negative behavior, just be there for her silently and be a resource where she can count on you to take the pressure off of her. And maybe that way you can minimize the abuse that's going on. I don't know. That's just my impression of it is the more with the way the law works and the way people are, I don't feel like confronting her is the way to go. And I don't feel like you being her friend is the way to go. But just be there, be someone she can count on to take the pressure off her, maybe.
But how?
That makes
how?
Sense.
But how? But
if I can.
But how would you do it?
I would say if she could move closer and be someone that's like, if you need help with the kids, if you need help around the house, if you need me to run to the store and get you something, be a resource to her to take the pressure off of her, so she's not, living out this horrible house,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I've been encouraged to take that role on, and it was a big step for me to send her Happy Kudos Day on Mother's Day, but I did it, and I kept doing it. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to make the step in the right direction. I keep trying to. What you're saying is what others have suggested, and and that would be getting beyond my ego, getting beyond whatever,
Yeah, big challenge.
Jill, do you see anything with your abilities? Do you see anything going down that path? If that's a good way to go to try to get closer to her physically?
I think it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for both of them.
Well, because he said things to me, and that's the other thing. I don't know what to do with that information.
Document it, for sure.
I do.
Yeah.
You're visual there. Can't hear you. Jill.
Did we lose Jill's audio?
It sounds like it.
We've lost her on the blog talk.
Fell off a blog talk.
So, let's see. I don't know if she can hear us. Jill should be back in a minute. She has to recall into the show. But I think what she was saying before she got cut off there was it's going to be a challenge for both of you, and the only one you can work on is yourself. So that's where you start, would be my guess. I'm speaking for Jill, but that's what I was getting from her last bit of advice there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I agree.
So we're still trying
doing what we can to get her back. I think she's working on it.
Jim, do you have any advice with your background on how to?
My background doesn't cover this kind of a problem, but and I have some friends who have been in similar situations, but and that's where the information or the ideas that both you and I, Paul, brought up would come from. Is the exact same idea: is that if you can build trust with the person who is kind of pushing you away, that you could build a bridge there. And it doesn't have to be a great love or respect or appreciation, although that might end up happening in some ways. You might start to see things from her perspective, even though you don't justify her actions. At least you can understand them, and that helps get a little empathy. That might help you to feel better about doing that, even though you might not like it.
Right, and it's Lisa.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to be the devil's advocate or look at the worst case scenario, but let's say that things go south with that house and things get worse there. If you get yourself in as a resource to this woman, and you don't call her on the little things that are coming up here and there, you might put yourself in a position to document things. And I hate to even think of it this way, but if things get worse, you're going to be in a position to have that stuff, either in paper or photographs or whatever, where you can make a case for custody. So I think that's one way of looking at it. It's not a happy way of looking at it, but the more of a resource you are to her, the less you challenge her, the more your eyes and ears can be open to really being there as an advocate for your grandson. If things do get so bad that you have to step in, you'll have more ammunition there.
You make a lot of sense in these points that you bring up, and it resonates for me.
Okay. Well, Lisa, we welcome your call, and we want to hear back from you. But we're going to have to close the show down because we've lost our main resource here, Jill. But we definitely want to hear back from you as things progress, and we wish you the best.
And I'll check on her raise.
Yeah.
See what's happening.
Yeah. Do that.
All right. Well, you have a good night, Lisa. Hopefully we'll talk to you soon and things will be better and we'll have some resolution for you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for your call.
Okay, so Jim, it looks like it's down to me and you again.
The two of us.
So we just want to thank everyone for sticking with us through all of our technical issues that we've been having. It is Mercury retrograde and all kinds of different eclipses going on. So beware, everybody, that your communications and other issues in your life are going to be extra challenging this next 2 or 3 weeks. Brace yourselves. So we want to thank you, all of our live stream viewers, those who called in tonight. We enjoyed hearing your stories, and we really appreciate you. Our next show is on Thursday, June 10th at 8 p.m., and the topic is letting go. It's very connected to tonight's episode. In order to move forward, you often have to let go of your past. Lady Fontaine and Jim Elkin will reveal their advice and secrets to help you learn how to let go. So mark your calendars and be sure to join us for that exciting show in 2 weeks here on Blog Talk Radio, as well as video streaming live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those interested, we'll be doing a show on relationships in the future, which will incorporate part 2 of what men want, combined with what women want in relationships in general. Stay tuned for our upcoming announcements for that show in upcoming weeks. Be sure to like our Facebook page to get all our details. We have lots of great topics in queue, and we welcome your suggestions for the topics that you want to talk to us about. Email us at radioshow@ladyfontaine.com with your suggestions, testimonials, or just say hello. We do have a special code. Each one of us is offering 50% off our services with the code. Jim, do you remember what it is? I think it's at the top of the... Here it is.
I'm back.
You're back.
Welcome back.
I am.
I just gave the big spiel.
Oh, we're finished?
Yeah.
We were almost wrapping up, but we've got a good 10 minutes left here. Let me give the discount code for our services, and you can wrap the show up for us here. It is TLA0527WN. That's TLA0527WN. Lady Fontaine, take it away.
I don't have a script in front of me, so I haven't gotten that far yet. So I don't know how far along you've gotten. Do you?
We wrapped it up with Lisa, and we basically just reinforced the last bit of advice that you gave her. That if there's somebody to fix that relationship, it has to start with Lisa, and she has to let go of some of her ego and some of the other things, and not necessarily be this woman's friend, but be a resource to her to kind of gain her trust.
And I have to say that was pretty good. I mean, you came up with a very good answer there. You really did. I just think it's a very difficult challenge for both of them to be able to do that. And honestly, I wish I could say that I felt things would, just go wonderful and, things would go smooth. But I feel she's got a challenge in front of her. I really do.
Yeah. Well, we hope the best for her.
Definitely. I don't have my script, and I don't want to spend the time. I'm coming back on video in case anybody cares.
There I am.
There I am.
I think we're in a good spot to wrap up, but I just want to give you a chance to give any closing thoughts here for the show, and if you had anything else you wanted to add.
Well, there's a lot that I don't know that we got to talk about regarding the law of attraction, but the most important thing, I think, is awareness and learning how to honor yourself and respect yourself. And whatever the inner work is, I mean, Lisa called in and she explained a little bit about the way I work, but Google stuff, how do I heal my past? Jim and I both have talked on many, many shows about inner child work. We both incorporate that into our practices in different ways. I find it extremely effective. And I'm learning, actually, I'm in the process of getting certified in the newer, updated version of inner child work. Is way different than back when we were in school. But I still teach my clients the old way, but I incorporate some of the newer stuff into it. But it works. I mean, there's so many different things, and there is probably books out there. There's workshops, there's seminars, there's a million different things that people can do to heal their past. But if you don't heal your past, I don't care how much you think about things, how much you believe it or think you believe it, or how much you visualize things, your chance of really making any permanent changes in your life is going to be slim. We talked about the trying to manipulate the outer world. Anything that you do in trying to manipulate the outer world is a temporary fix. The only way to really change anything is to change you. And that's really the law of attraction to me. And whenever, like if you're trying to draw in wealth in your life, there's always a poverty state of mind that you're stuck in. If you're trying to draw in love, there's some way that you're not loving yourself or that you feel unlovable. And those are the areas that you have to hit on and that you have to work on. Those, what I call the polarity of what it is that you're trying to draw in, because there's gaping holes that we all have in our own energy. And those are the things that we need to fix. Otherwise, I don't care how many books you read on the law of attraction. And I would like to hear from actually some listeners or viewers out there, how many people have been successful in using the law of attraction without going through doing some sort of inner work. I'd be real curious to hear that.
I can offer that. We've got 5 minutes left. I can offer a story from my own experience. When I was really struggling after my first divorce, I was in New York City and I was making $15 an hour. I was really struggling financially and was not doing well. And I read a book that mentioned something about the green law of giving, that you are to give financially or time-wise, or give of yourself so much beyond what you think you can survive. And you're going to see that come back to you. I forget the law, how much tenfold or whatever it was. So I took it seriously, and I went out Christmas Eve in New York City in 1995, 96, I think. And I drained my bank account and basically went out with, I think, $800 and just walked around the city handing it out to people that I thought needed it.
Oh, my God.
Or, I put $100 through somebody's window and just knocked on the window and said, hey, there's something stuck in your window. And I saw a woman on the subway who was begging for money, and she was in tears. She was pregnant and had been kicked out of her home. And I gave her $200. And I just gave and gave and gave without any anticipation or hope that it would come back. Just I felt, called upon to do this. I was going to try this thing and just give until it was scary that all that money was gone from my account and I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. And within 3 months, my life had turned around entirely. The type of work that I came in snowballed. My income tripled. Money came in from all over different places. People that I forgot owed me money started sending money. And just this thing was incredible. And I was almost a religious zealot about this for years. And I told all my friends about it. And I was like, you have to do this. You have to do this. And it's incredible. And I did it for, a couple years. And then one year I tried doing it and something in my intention was wrong. And I messed it up. And I threw the whole thing out of balance and I never did it again. But for a long time, this thing really worked and I was in a good place because I wasn't expecting anything in return. And my whatever frequencies and whatever resonance I had worked because I had created this by giving. And then when I tried giving and I think I had the expectation that
exactly.
I have to try this again. I'm feeling really poor right now, so I have to try this again. I'm going to drain my bank account and
you probably wanted it,
and I blew it.
And you wanted it.
Yeah,
you wanted it, and you were anxious about it.
You wanted the gift. You wanted the gift.
Right.
You were after the gift.
Yeah. So whatever point in my life, I messed it up, and I was never able to do it again. But that's the one time in my life that I really felt like that law of attraction and putting things out in the universe with the right intention when without the want and the need, it really worked.
I always say to go ahead, Jim. You go.
My wife and I are both acupuncturists. We both went to acupuncture school, and that's where we met and started our practice. Later, after we got out of school, and one of the first things we said to each other is, and we want to focus our practice on healing people, making a difference in people's lives, and not making money. And then along comes 2008, the recession, and all of our income and all of our savings and everything goes down the toilet, and nobody's offering us anything, and we're like, oh, this is going to be really hard to get through this one without focusing on the income, but we did it. And but I noticed that every time we start, one of us starts focusing on, oh, we need to make more money, that we don't. That our patient load goes down. All of a sudden, people stop coming, and the moment we really get back into focus on the healing, everything comes back. So, yeah, the same idea. It's a lifestyle. And just one more thing I wanted to add, and that is an old saying in Chinese medicine that if the root of the tree is bad, is sick, the branches will all be sick. You can never expect the branches to get well if the root is sick.
Bingo.
Right? That's exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
If you don't do the inner work, the hidden stuff beneath the surface, you will never get a healthy tree.
Yeah.
I give an example often to clients about, let's assume you buy a house and you find out the foundation's bad, but who cares? You redecorate, you add an addition on and all this stuff. How long do you think that house is going to be in a functional standpoint before the bottom falls out from under you?
Right.
And that's pretty much really what Jim was saying too about the tree, and you're not going to have healthy leaves if your root system is bad. It's always down to the core. But there's one thing, I know we're almost out of time, but there's one thing that we haven't mentioned today that I think is so important, and that's gratitude. And to be in a state of gratitude, if you were grateful, Paul, instead of wanting to give out money because you needed it back, if you were grateful for all the times you gave money and you got it back, you probably would have gotten more money back, but you were more in that desperate mode rather than being in a state of gratitude. Gratitude is the most amazing thing. The things that you're grateful for, the universe will send you more things. Like if I'm grateful for having a beautiful home, that the universe will send me more things to be grateful for, more beautiful homes to be grateful for, more opportunities to be grateful for. And I tell people when they're in a relationship, if you're in fear, what are you going to create? You're going to create havoc in your relationship. If you're afraid of losing a person, if you're afraid they're going to leave, if they're going to go away, trust me, they will.
Right. Okay, with that, that's a wonderful way to end the show here. We can all stand to display a little more gratitude. And just a reminder here, all three of us are offering 50% off on our services, so please contact us here, and we'll definitely take care of you here. Please visit Lady Fontaine at ladyfontaine.com for a reading or life coaching session. And those listeners in New York, visit Jim at East West Healing Arts in Hartsdale, New York. The website is eastwesthealing.info. His Facebook page is /East West Healing Arts. I have my own show on purerockradio.net on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. It's called 6 Degrees. And we just want to say good night. We look forward to hearing you on June 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Eye on the Future. Good night.
Another great show, thanks to our callers and wonderful listeners. Be sure to follow us here on Blog Talk Radio and on Facebook. Check back regularly for info on our next show here on Blog Talk Radio on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you miss a show or want to listen again, you can listen to the podcast anytime here or on iTunes. Signing off from all of us here on Eye on the Future.